love Moneyball because this is a winning team. You don't look like one, but play like one today. But those were impressive wins. So let's not, kind of scrub that from the annals of history.
Hey, Weekly Pulse on all things green and gold with the three-time Wisconsin Sportswriter of the Year, Jason Wilde. I'm ESPN Wisconsin's Alex Strouf. It's another edition of Weekly Wilde ahead of Sunday Night Football, Packers Cowboys, after the Packers' first loss of the year. I've really enjoyed your facial expressions during the intro this season. Is that something you've been working on?
No, just whenever the mood strikes me.
Sure.
But I'm glad you're
Spontaneous guy.
enjoying them.
Yes. It always makes the editing process after we record very, very interesting when I skip around.
You're entertained.
The many expressions of Jason Wilde. So Sunday Night Football in Dallas is where the Packers head this week. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's just kind of, close the book on last week. The Packers go to Cleveland. I don't think either of us saw what happened coming as the Packers fall 13-10. What do you make of that? Obviously, a lot of conversations with the head coach and the quarterback this week on the late game meltdown in Cleveland. What are your final thoughts on the Packers' first loss of the season?
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it last week. Like, the theory was if you let Myles Garrett wreck the game and get like a strip sack fumble return for a touchdown. We didn't quite get that, but the interception was awfully close. Go down to the 5-yard line, and even the Cleveland Browns inept offense, especially with, I know he had some legal issues, but Judkins is a pretty good player. I was impressed by him. So look, they did everything they needed to do to lose in the last 3 minutes and 18 seconds. So they got what they deserved because they played that way. And, obviously there's been plenty of debate about various aspects of that. My biggest thing, though, I think you can easily make a convincing argument that you run the ball into the line, you punt the ball away, and you win the game because there's no way that offense with Joe Flacco is driving 80 yards for a touchdown. At the same time, two things can be true, and you should reasonably be able to expect, even if your play call's not great, your $55 million a year quarterback not to turn the ball over there. Like, both things can be true. And so, Jordan, it wasn't a great concept. It certainly wasn't great execution. Watching back after LaFleur said it, it does look like he's like into his motion when he realizes, oh no, I shouldn't throw this. So then the ball's even more inaccurate than it would have been otherwise. But the bottom line is that, if we're going to hold people to standards, he wasn't good enough in that moment. And, their offensive line wasn't good enough most of the day. Some of that is on the coaches for how they chose to deploy guys. Some of that is on, it sounds to me like Zach Tom went against the advice of medical counsel and chose to play. And in talking to him yesterday, he still feels like garbage for leaving his team high and dry. And, they're keeping up the facade that he might play, but he ain't playing. There's no way he's playing. You can't do that. You just can't. So my point is that they did so many different things that put themselves in the position to lose that I still think they're a really good football team, but they certainly didn't look. It's like that line. I love Moneyball. Because this is a winning team. You don't look like one, but play like one today, or whatever he says. So they played poorly. They got what they deserved, but they also got a wake-up call, and I think ultimately it really will be a good thing for them.
Yeah, you mentioned Zach Tom, who I know we were on Green Bay game day together when the announcement was made that he was going to play, and we were all shocked. Maybe none more shocked than Brian Bulaga, who had quite the expression, speaking of expressions, when we announced that Zach Tom would go. He drops out after one play. You can't do that 2 weeks in a row, even if they're going to keep up the facade. He can't go on Sunday against the Cowboys. Get through the bye week, and then maybe we'll try again as the Packers with the early bye week coming up in week 5. Aaron Banks also dropped out of that game. He has not finished a game healthy for the Packers yet this season. It's, I believe, a groin this time around, and he did not practice or participate in Wednesday's practice. What's the deal with the left guard, Aaron Banks, your big free agent acquisition?
Yeah, I mean that, and that's part of the equation, right? Like you acquired him and you moved Elton Jenkins based on your acquisition of him, and right now neither of them are working out the way you'd like. I mean, look, and it reminds me I need to send Josh DiMaggio the audio from my phone. Look, it very rarely in an interview, just like a lot of times guys will say something and the little light will go on and I'll think, oh, that's good, I'm going to use that. Very rarely do I get like knocked back by a quote. But yesterday, when I asked Elton, you know, how do you assess how the first three games have gone at center? Um, and he said, I feel like I've played like poopy. I know we're on YouTube, but I think we also play this in other places, so I didn't want to use the. I was like, whoa, didn't see that coming,
Huh.
right? And I appreciate his blunt honesty because you go to Pro Football Focus and the grades would indicate there's a little poop emoji for his score. Like he has not played well. But here's the thing and this is why I love dealing with him. Like he then explained why. And what I thought was really interesting was that he said, and this is when I love this job because that's the great quote, right? And everybody's going to latch onto it. But to me, the most important thing was his explanation as to why. And he said, for all these years, including from Kenny Clark, he would hear from the defensive lineman, God, you're so aggressive as a pass blocker. You're so aggressive. And
Okay.
basically, as he said, I can't be that aggressive at center. And it's hurt him. Like the sack he gave up, one of the sacks he gave up in the game, like he clearly he goes one way, the dude goes right around him, unblocked, because he overset to his left. And so to me, that is trial and error of a guy who has, yeah, I hated the explanation we were getting from Goody and LaFleur about, oh, he's played there. Well, yeah, but not to the degree that you're asking him to this season. He never has. He played, and look, he didn't play that well in the Detroit game in the rain last year. So I think he's learning on the job. But for the crowd that was like, don't pay this guy, even though the general manager said he can be an all-pro center, don't pay this guy any more money. Right now, they can say, yeah, we were right and you were wrong.
Yeah, that is an interesting quote. I did not hear you say that on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy this morning. Amongst the other great intel you had on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy this morning, weekday morning, 7 to 9, ESPN Milwaukee. So, yeah, the offensive line's been a mess. I think that's the best way to put it. And obviously, last week they faced a really good front seven in Cleveland, one of the best front sevens they'll play all season. It's definitely the best they'll play until November 10th on Monday Night Football when the Eagles come to Lambeau Field. The good news is the front seven they play this week, not so good, even though it involves the former Packer Kenny Clark. The Dallas Cowboys have given up more yards and as many points as anybody else in the NFL through 3 weeks. You view this game on Sunday Night Football as kind of a get-right game for not only this offensive line, but this entire offense?
Well, there's the opportunity for that, but I think if we learned anything from last Sunday, let's not assume anything with this team. Now, I think you can assume the defense is going to play well.
Yeah, I think you can too. That is a foregone conclusion, it seems, through 3 weeks.
The one touchdown drive they gave up was 5 yards in length.
Sure was.
So, in fairness to them, I think you can feel that way about them, and especially against the team that's not going to have CeeDee Lamb, right? I mean, that's obviously a factor here too. But the bottom line is that yeah, offensively they are scuffling, and frankly, we should have seen that coming a little bit because I think in the euphoria of the first two wins, which are big boy wins. Let's not
Definitely.
revisionist history those either. Like that, all three of those teams now, the Lions, the Commanders, and the Packers, oh my, are all 2-1, right? And the Packers handed each of those two teams their one loss. But those were impressive wins. So let's not, kind of scrub that from the annals of history just because they played like garbage against the Browns. That said, I think in both of those games, and we talked about it, they left a lot on the table. And there were these lengthy offensive lulls. So then you combine that with playing a really good front and a disjointed offensive line. And that's how you get the performance that you had last Sunday. So, yeah, theoretically, on paper, this should be a game where they put up a bunch of points. Tausch and his burgers, 30 burger, 40 burger, 50 burger, whatever. And we all saw what they did in that shootout with the Giants back when Russell Wilson was the starter. Like, that could be the game. But I don't see that against this defense. I don't see this defense allowing that kind of points against a team that won't have CeeDee Lamb. So I will say this about the Dallas Cowboys defense. They could really use that Micah Parsons guy.
Yeah.
That's the kind of insight you get here.
All of a sudden, an elite pass rusher might look pretty good on that defense. Fascinating concept for old Jerry Jones.
Well, he's got Jadeveon Clowney now.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I don't know if we could call him elite anymore. If it was 2018, maybe.
Hey, that is Dallas Cowboys personified, right? Like that name, like the first thing I think of is him hitting that Michigan running back, and I wasn't sure if that guy's head was still in the helmet when it popped off. I mean, that was when he was at South Carolina. Like, look, dude was a number 1 overall pick. That is a huge name, but his game is not that anymore. That's why he was available. And Jerry can feel very good about his run defense. It has improved. And Kenny Clark's a great guy to have in your football team. It's not a slight on him. But clearly Kenny Clark is not able to tilt the field in their favor based on what the rest of their defense is.
No, Kenny Clark's still a good player. It's just he's not Micah Parsons. And that's why you make that trade that Brian Gutekunst did right before the season began, because it's a game-changing addition, and the Packers defense has proved that. So let's go there. You just mentioned it. I think that's kind of the biggest storyline through 3 weeks is just how good this Packers defense is. They've only allowed 3 passing touchdowns, one of which was a garbage time touchdown to Isaac Tesla. Another was late in that game against the Commanders, allowing 2 to Jaden Daniels, and obviously didn't allow a passing touchdown to Joe Flacco. They are top of the league in pressures. They're top 5 in sacks. They're top 7 in yards per game. Every statistic you look at, it validates the fact that this defense is really good through 3 weeks. And defense travels. They proved that against Cleveland, and they're going to have the opportunity to, with a hurt offensive lineman and no CeeDee Lamb in Dallas, prove that this defense is for real. Number 1 storyline through 3 weeks. Any disagreements?
No, and look, it's never just one thing, right? So it's year 2 of the system. It's DeMarcus Covington certainly appears to have helped his guys, the new defensive line coach, and the Micah Parsons effect is real. I mean, again, I don't know. Rashawn Gary was unblocked on his sack in Cleveland, right? Is that Rashawn Gary's gotten so much better, or is that they were triple teaming the guy wearing the number 1 jersey, and that gave him the opportunity to do that? And I'm not. Look, the dude's got 4.5 sacks. He deserves a ton of credit for that. We do not need to downgrade him and say, oh, it's the Micah Parsons effect. But it's a factor. It is a factor. And so to me, his production is the biggest sign that you should be really excited about this pass rush, because he's got 4.5 sacks through 3 games. And I wish him good health for the remaining 14 games, because he is going to get to double digits as long as he stays healthy, which, again, he has never done before. That would be a major, significant change for him.
Yeah, Rashawn Gary leads the league in sacks through 3 weeks. 4.5, as you mentioned. He's on pace for about 25. I don't know if he can maintain that pace, but because
Mark Gastineau is going to be pissed.
Oh, God. I forgot about that clip earlier in the offseason with him and Favre. Trivia time. You ready? We got a trivia question.
I didn't know there'd be a quiz.
Just one question. Rashawn Gary is the first Packer to lead the league in sacks through 3 weeks since who?
Ooh. Well, the obvious guess would be Clay Matthews, but that clearly you wouldn't do this if the answer was Clay Matthews.
The answer's Clay Matthews.
Oh,
Clay Matthews. You know what year?
09, 10, 11.
10, 2010. 2010. Your second guess was correct. He had 6 in the first 2 weeks. Got blanked in week 3 against the Bears, but 6 sacks through 3 weeks in 2010 for Clay Matthews. Had 3 in each of the first 2 games that year, which
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, it was a
yeah,
long time ago.
it was 15 years ago. In fact, the last time the Packers won the Super Bowl.
15 years ago, so that would have made you, what,
11.
12? 11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
11 turning 12. Yeah, indeed.
6, 7.
6, 7. Elsewhere on the defense, the cornerbacks have provided. And obviously, when you have a really good pass rush and the opposing quarterback does not have a lot of time to throw the ball, that will help. But Keyshawn Nixon looks the part. Carrington Valentine has been off to a nice start. Prior to the concussion suffered in week 3, Javon Bullard has been really good in that room. And obviously, Nate Hobbs hasn't been on the field a ton, but when he has been, you can't really tell, which is a good thing. The cornerbacks have been, I mean, if we sat down prior to the season, even after the Parsons trade, and I said, hey, circle the position group you think will struggle the most this year, that probably would have been our answer, is cornerback, because they just don't have what we know is a bona fide dude in that room. Have you been impressed with that group through 3 weeks?
I have been. I mean, I thought, Bullard did a really good job on Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot. Like, I don't know what the Pro Football Focus grades were. I know he had a couple of catches on him. I don't know how much of that was him and how much of it was just their offense being disjointed. Because look, the offense we've seen from the Lions in the second and third weeks of the season does not look the same. I think they were finding their sea legs with the new coordinator and everything else. Look, they're not going to face CeeDee Lamb this week. I am a George Pickens doubter. Terry McLaurin. They did not. He was not a major factor in that Washington game. Last week, Jerry Jeudy, get out of here, right? I mean, he's been a disappointment, to be fair. Again, let's see what happens when Jordan Addison is revved up and opposite of Jay Jettis, as Tausch likes to call Justin Jefferson. And if their offense is clicking with Carson Wentz still, or if McCarthy's back. But yeah, so far so good. I don't know how quickly Bullard will clear the concussion protocol. If he doesn't, again, this is what we've talked about. They feel really good about those top 3. So you put Hobbs inside, you got Nixon and Carrington Valentine on the outside, and then you're fine as long as those guys stay healthy. So, I think they've been good. I think Keyshawn Nixon's been really good. And I do want to see them when they're tested a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's go back to the offense, and then we'll hit the injury report before we wrap up. Matthew Golden, good game. Still kind of waiting for him to pop. He's got 6 catches for 68 yards through the first 3 weeks. Obviously, 4 catches in the loss to Cleveland, including that one catch where he kind of veered to the sideline, and I think everybody in the world was just hoping he would tiptoe the sideline because that could have been a very long touchdown for the rookie first-round pick. What have you made of his performance through the first 3 weeks? And I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but kind of still waiting on that game where he pops.
Yeah, this is what I expected, though. Like, it's really hard, right? And look, Teteroa McMillan, I think, has been really productive. I don't follow the Carolina Panthers very closely. I have a good friend who works for them, but I don't know what his numbers are. Emeka Egbuka has been productive. So I understand.
Yeah.
Compared to the two of them, you're like, hey, what about our guy? I did not talk to Matthew Golden. I know he did talk. I did not read the transcript yet from my buddy Bill Huber, who sent it to me. But, I don't know what happened on that play. I'm never, and I know you're not either, going to be athletic enough to know what that would be like. Like, I don't know if the armchair quarterbacks are looking at that going, he should have been able to stop his momentum, put his foot in the ground, and turn up field. That I would love to be able to critique that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I don't know. I don't know enough about what was going on there, but yeah, it's easy from the cheap seats, AJ, to view that as, oh, he should have taken that 90 some yards for a touchdown. I will say this. It's given where their offense is at, what did Jordan Love throw for 183 yards in that game?
Correct.
Like, again, I think he's a good quarterback. There are going to be games where he's going to have the opportunity to go be Superman, as Tausch likes to say, instead of Clark Kent, and throw for 300 yards. But, to put him in MVP conversations, and that's one of the things that I'm frustrated by in the kind of sports commentary space. I think the world of Mike Greenberg. He was on our show on Wednesday promoting his book. He's really smart. He's really good at his job. But on Get Up, people say stuff every single day, and there's never any accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And like Dan Orlovsky, who is very smart about football, very good at his job, but he makes all these grand pronouncements. Jordan Love is not in the MVP conversation. Now, he does have the fourth highest passer rating in the league entering the week, and he has made some good plays. But again, I know we use this phrase during the offseason that as of now, when you look at him, he's a guy that you win with.
Mm-hmm.
You don't win because of. And they're not asking them to win because of him.
No.
So when we get to games where they do have to win because of him, and maybe this is going to be that game, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they need to light up the scoreboard like he did when they played down there in the playoffs. Will he do that? Let's see. But I am a believer in Jordan Love. I am not a believer that he is anointed the latest in the succession line of greatness. But he's in year 3 as a starter. He's 27 years old. This is when the other two guys really popped, especially Rodgers. One wins a Super Bowl like that. All that stuff, it's coincidental, but it's also developmental. And so he continues to develop at some point. Because, look, the way teams are defending these guys, they're saying, hey, we double dog dare you. Let's go. Beat us. Because we're not going to let Josh Jacobs beat us. And they're 2-1, so let's not pretend they haven't been good. And let's not pretend he hasn't made some big league throws. But we haven't gotten to the game yet where Jordan Love has to go win the game for them. And if there's a game like that and he does it, that will be an enormous leap forward for him that everyone should be extremely excited about. Because then I think you're looking at an offense where you're saying, holy crap.
Yes.
If this guy plays like this, these guys could be really good.
So I agree with everything you said. And I don't think the critique or the criticism towards Jordan Love after that throw in Cleveland was unfair. It's not the first time we've seen him make a mistake in a big spot like that. But that doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback. That doesn't mean he hasn't been incredibly successful during his tenure as the starter in Green Bay. And, I'm not ready to sit here and say, yeah, he's the MVP frontrunner. When you look at betting odds, I think he's a distant fourth behind Jackson, Allen, and Herbert for betting odds through the remainder of the season. When you talk about his quarterback rating, he's fourth of the guys that have started all 3 weeks. I think those are the other 3 guys. Maybe Daniel Jones is up there as well through 3 weeks. He's a good quarterback. We haven't seen put the team on my back Jordan Love yet, and we haven't seen it consistently. Is he capable of it? I'm sure he is, and I'm sure we're going to see opportunities for that this season. I don't know if it's Sunday because I just don't know if I trust their offense to compete with the Packers if they put up, say, a 30-burger, like your buddy Tausch would like to say. But this is a big year for him. And again, I think you and I are on the same page. I believe he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I believe he's a good starting quarterback in the NFL. Is he in the upper echelon of the Josh Allens, Joe Burrows, Lamar Jacksons, Patrick Mahomes of the world? Not yet. Can he get there? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But I think he's a really good quarterback, and obviously this year is going to, I think, round out the sample size of 3 years as a starter where we can really evaluate, okay, just how good is he and can he be? It's a big season for that.
And there's a lot of it left still.
Yeah.
He's going to have all kinds of opportunities. But again, and I've expressed this a bunch. I don't know how big the portion of the fan base is, but like this is, I think we have been more than fair in our critique of him. Look, there are certain guys you come across in this job that as hard as you try to be professional, you root against them because they're just jerks. And you still try to be professional and cover them properly, but you just know they're bad dudes and they're difficult. He's none of those things. When I critique him, in no way am I rooting against him. I enjoy our interactions. I think he's a really good person. I have no there are and I always caution people, hey, you never really know these guys, right? Like, again, I covered Darren Sharper and he had me completely fooled about the kind of guy. And we're talking at the far end of the spectrum of bad news, right? With what he did.
Yep.
That said, I feel if someone said, is Jordan Love a good guy? He's one of the few guys where I feel like I can say without being concerned about being proven wrong that he is. I hope he succeeds because I think he does it the right way. And you've heard me say this before. Yeah. Like if I was an NFL player, which is not anywhere close to the realm of possibility.
I picture you wearing a Guardian cap, just for the record.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very safety conscious. Yeah. He's the kind of leader and the kind of teammate I want. And again, I know Marcus Mariota has not had a great NFL career. Got to win on Sunday, filling in for the Commanders. But I remember when he was at Oregon, guys would talk about his leadership style not being, in your face, fired up, screaming and yelling and getting after guys and chewing them out. And I think Jordan's kind of cut from that same cloth. I think that can be a sufficient leadership style if you have other people that take on the other parts of that. And I think he's really grown. His teammates love him. He has built such great connectivity with those guys. So now he's just got to elevate his game a little further. It's not like he has not had like Daniel Jones's career with the Giants, and now suddenly he's doing what he's doing with the Colts, and you're like, holy cow, I had this guy wrong the whole time. Mm-hmm. He has been a good player, but what's going to happen in the games where he has to be great? And if he's great in those games, look out, this team's going to be really, really hard to beat.
I totally agree with everything you said there. Really well said. Well said. Throwback to last year. Who do you think Mike McCarthy's rooting for on Sunday?
Well, considering that he and Goody have a good enough relationship that he was part of their kind of vetting of Micah Parsons, I don't see him rooting.
Oh, is that confirmed? I don't know if I've heard that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
I think Rob Domofsky had that first, but then I talked to Mike too. So I would say this. I don't see Mike McCarthy rooting for a Jerry Jones-owned team, no matter if it's a WNBA team, a pro volleyball league team, or the Dallas Cowboys.
Fair enough.
I was told that he wanted a 5-year extension, and the Cowboys offered him 3. So he could have been coaching them this year.
Oh, really?
And he chose but again, the crazy thing about Jerry and all his billions is that he's a total cheapskate. Like, he made Mike reduce his coaching staff and do all kinds of stuff where you're like, well, just go sell more Pepsi, right? Like, get another partner or two on board with America's team and, pay so you could keep Joe Philbin on the staff. Right. I think it's really, what a weird, I am so glad. I sometimes I think about this. I wanted to go to Minneapolis when I was young. I wanted to be the Vikings beat writer for the Star Tribune, because I love the Twin Cities. Then my friend Judd Zolgad, the Minneapolis Star Tribune, decided to cover the Packers. And Judd, who ended up standing up at my wedding and is one of my greatest friends, I was so pissed that they sent him to Green Bay instead of hiring me at the Star Tribune to cover the Packers for them, that I froze him out for the first 6 weeks he was here.
Wow.
And it wasn't his fault. I was just so bitter, that's a lesson for the kids out there. Don't be bitter, because you could be being bitter toward a guy who ends up being one of your best friends. But my point is that, I don't know, let's say my same career arc covering the Packers for the last 30 seasons. I do that in Minnesota, or I do that in Dallas. Like I hit kind of the coverage lottery when it comes to, and look, I don't root for the team, but I don't know how guys that cover like the Jaguars and the Browns do it. Like it's just the same garbage stories and occasional wins mixed in. Like what must it be like to cover the Cowboys? Like Todd Archer does a great job for ESPN.
I would actually imagine it's got to be kind of fun because
I would think it's got
it's
to
such
be
as due.
a siege of just God. What am I going to deal with next?
That's fair.
And it won't be winning.
No, at least we don't think so, but we will see. Real quick, Jason, three did not practices or did not participate on Wednesday. We mentioned Aaron Banks, Javon Bullard with the concussion. We don't know if he'll clear protocol to play on Sunday, and then Zach Tom with the oblique. Do you expect to see any of those guys on Sunday? Maybe Banks.
No, I look. You've got the bye next week. Let those guys get right. And by the way, figure out your starting five right now and just go with them.
Yes, correct.
Right? Like, no offense, but
that was a
I
mess.
don't. And I know we're taping this on Thursday morning. We're going to talk to Adam Stenovich, the offensive coordinator. What the hell are you doing? And I love Steno, and Luke Butkus and the whole, like, I don't know whose idea it was to put Jordan Morgan at right tackle. Like, and look, Belton didn't play well. You look at the grades from Pro Football Focus; he didn't play well either. No, nobody did.
Nobody did.
But like, so you got a guy who wishes he's a left tackle. He played two different positions in the game, and neither of them well. You got Belton, who comes in only after another injury to Banks, and they have to move Morgan. Like, I didn't understand that. It reminded me of that playoff game where like Yash had played well all year, and then they decided not to start him against the 49ers or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly right.
It felt like they overthought it. So look, just go with your guys and do the things you need to help them protect. But they just made a bad situation worse with how they handled the line.
100%. Yeah, it was a mess on Sunday. We will see if they're able to clean it up for Sunday night football in Dallas. And Jason, we'll be talking to you in the 5 o'clock Central hour of Green Bay game day leading up to kickoff of that game. Appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week during the bye week, early bye week this year.
Yeah, I need a bye week. I'm probably going to need about 3 of them during the course of the season, though. So
it's always a long haul. Thanks, Jason.
All right, buddy. Take care. Be good.